woke pictures. And this is actually heartbreaking. It really is. Okay, let me show you just one example. Okay, do you see what I see here? I mean, shave the head. You got a tattoo on your forehead. And look at her before she went. I mean, she's beautiful. She's probably really smart. And look what kind of turned up. So I'm confused about this woke. I'm confused about like I said, the transgender sports. You know, when a swimmer can go and beat the world record and be 30 seconds ahead. That tells me that there's a huge advantage up in the upper strength. Especially if they went through puberty. And then changed after. So we really need to address this problem. And on top of that, we have transgender saying rights. But there was somebody that was in a prison, and in the prison they got I think it was three females pregnant, and I think even a guard. So this is it's almost like everything. It's almost like I could get canceled when I say this, but it's almost like religion. It attracts 90% good people. But then it has the other 10% that are evil. They're pure evil. They're molesting children and just which I think we should if we have absolute proof, just line them up and just take them all out. Just firing squad. Just get it done with. I don't think that's curable. So you know, but let's look at something a little bit more. What I wanted to kind of address. I want to kind of address the media also and how they're pushing their agendas and it's very nonchalant. And this is Avi, and I want you to take a look and take a listen to what he has to say.
Jim Jeffries, producer, contacted me and asked me to come on as a guest to his show. Now, I agreed with two conditions. One, there'll be no neo-Nazi or Nazi sympathizers on the same segment, because I don't want to be aligned to them and I don't want to give them any legitimacy or anything like that. Common sense. The second one was that they don't cut my answers from one question and put it to another. Now, to my horror, but not my surprise, they did exactly both those things. But they went even further. They connected me to the Christchurch killer, to the terrorist.
The New Zealand shooter left behind a detailed record of his anti-immigrant, anti-Muslim rhetoric. And unfortunately, these days, this kind of intolerance is being tolerated in more places than you might think.
So it's important to remember that this was filmed a few months ago, and not in response to the Christchurch massacre, as they seem to be alluding here.
I was shocked to hear that the prick allegedly behind the Christchurch, New Zealand mass shootings is a white supremacist who grew up and was radicalised in Australia. So what is the situation down there? And what are the people who may have radicalised him saying?
White people like myself feel happy and safe around my culture, my people.
Sherman's a Nazi. You broke Rule 1 in 20 seconds.
And this anti-immigration fervour is uniting some strange groups. It turns out that the one thing that can bring together the alt-right and the Jew is their shared hatred of Muslims. Meet Jewish activist Avi Yemeni, a good Australian name.
Luckily, I'm not an idiot, and I knew what their plan was all along. What? They flew me to Singapore, put me in a hotel for a couple of days there. What was I to expect? It was a setup. So what I did was, I got there and I secretly put my phones down to record the entire segment. Now, over the next few days, I'm going to release a bunch of little clips that are important that he specifically didn't add to the piece. We filmed for about an hour, and there's about 3 or 4 minutes where he's included little snippets. So in the next few days, I'm going to release little bits that are important that I think everyone needs to see. But if you're on my Patreon, you can see the entire hour. I'll upload it within the next week. Islamic immigration, cut it.
Now, what makes Avi suddenly feel so comfortable saying this shit out loud?
I always stand by my words, and I say it publicly, loudly, and proudly. I won't say in private something different than what I'll say in public.
I agree with that. I don't do the same thing.
To apologise,
I'll just
I've done
say whatever I'm going to say.
I might sound like a hippie.
That's just it.
Anyone the right to tell anyone where they can and can't live.
When you import this culture, what do you think's going to happen? Australia's going to end up the same shithole that they came from, that they were escaping. Watch how Jim Jeffries has edited this last clip to make me look like an ass. See what I really said.
What gives anyone the right to tell anyone where they can and can't live? Really?
Borders,
I know borders, yeah. But wouldn't it just be nice if we got to a place in society where we had a utopia, where we all just lived as
on a level, I agree.
You may say I'm a dreamer.
I think most people, sensible people would agree with you in theory.
Yeah.
But in practice, it's not. It goes against human nature. It just doesn't work. You bloody scumbag, Jim. You see those rubbish edits through the entire segment. I don't even need to show you. You get my point. They put one answer to a different question. But today, what I really want to show you is how Jim Jeffries speaks about Islam, about their Prophet Muhammad, and about Muslims themselves when he thinks the cameras aren't rolling or when he knows he can cut it out. So Muhammad is considered the perfect man.
Right, yes.
Okay?
You can't draw a picture of it.
No, don't you dare, don't you dare. I've got enough death threats on me, brother.
There he is.
Jesus Christ.
There he is. He looks like a wobbly ghost.
He's finally going to understand Islam after this shit comes out. That's what you do, Jimmy, when you think no one's going to see it. Now, I don't actually have a problem if you draw Muhammad, to be honest. That's me. But people like you call me an Islamophobe because that riles up, that upsets, that, in your words, triggers the Muslim into violence. Now, I wonder when this goes far and wide, and help it, share it around, let the world see. I want to see if the leftists condemn Jim. And even more so, what I'm interested to see is the people that he is hell-bent on protecting, the people that he is fighting so hard to let into Australia and the US. Let's see how they react when they see him mock their prophet. You know what the punishment for blasphemy is, Jim? I wish you luck, brother. But it gets worse. Watch what he says when the cameras aren't rolling.
I'm not a big fan of Islam. I think that wearing a burqa is stupid and...
I mean, you hear this show?
Islam or dingo?
Islam and dingo sneaky?
Yeah.
Probably both.
Probably both. Dangerous?
Right. Probably both.
Probably both.
The dingo ate the baby. It turned out it did eat the baby.
If it ain't a bloody Muslim baby, it would have vomited.
It turned out... No, I don't actually agree with that
shit. I'm only joking.
But that's not funny, you're talking about fucking killing kids. No, that's crossing the line, there's a fucking line.
We'll edit this bit out. I never look bad in these interviews.
He's right. Jim never looks bad in his own segments. He edits it perfectly. And 9 out of 10 times he wins. He makes people like me look bad, like Jordan Peterson look bad. But today, I got you, brother. How's it feel? So that's all I'm saying to you is that...
We don't disagree on...
Nah, mate. We don't agree. I never, ever, ever even joke about killing Muslims. So I'm going to ask you all at home, make sure to share this far and wide. Share it with everyone. Because Jim works with the establishment, he has the mainstream media, he has the platform, he has the numbers. But I have you. Share it around. How do you feel about the idea that socialists who side with communists want me who fights for freedom to leave? What do you feel about that?
Well, let's not forget, like, socialism lead to communism.
We're here in Melbourne CBD where the local Hong Kong community are protesting, as they are around the world, for Hong Kong.
We just want everyone to know that we value democracy, like true freedom, and we value Australian like values.
I shouldn't talk to this man. He's an extreme right-wing, like Nazi. He's well known for being like extremely racist.
You're part of the Victorian Socialists. What are the Victorian Socialists doing here today?
I don't want to talk to you. You're like a racist. You're like an actual
Am I?
huge racist.
You know, I just came back from Hong Kong. I was at the
I think you should like not be here. I don't want. Can you stop like coming towards me? Like
You're the one that came up to us.
Fuck off.
welcome.
Mate,
You're a racist.
Look, mate. So what here exactly? Wait, what here are you supporting? Don't touch me. Don't touch me. So wait, as a socialist, you're saying you support...
Socialist, I'm an anti-fascist.
We're opposed to you as a fascist, Zionist, being at a rally, who opposes the struggles of ordinary people everywhere. We're opposed to that. We're opposed to you co-opting the movement in an anti-democratic way.
Have you been to Hong Kong?
No, I'm...
So in the street protests right now in Hong Kong, everybody says that they support Donald Trump. How do you feel about that?
That's a good
They fly the American flag. Some people even wear a MAGA hat.
How do you feel? They want me to leave. The socialists want me to leave. How do you feel about the idea that socialists who side with communists want me who fights for freedom to leave? What do you feel about that?
Well, let's not forget, like, socialism lead to communism. It's like socialism is a precursor to communism. So yeah, I would never trust a socialist. Never trust Bernie Sanders. Yeah, anyone that everyone wants to like force everyone to submit to a state and to live under like a tyranny.
You have connections to like Blair Cottrell, who's like...
Connections what to Blair Cottrell?
You guys work together.
No, I work for TR News.
I don't want to talk to you.
You know what would be best for everyone? Why don't we trade in the self-loathing Australians?
I think I would have to look.
I
think I would have to look
freedom-loving,
more into
working Hong Kong people that be oppressed
Bernie
across the
Sanders
ocean. Yeah, why don't we
to
just
kind of
trade them
figure
in?
out what he thinks.
Can you like leave? You're being like completely absurd.
I think he thinks
I just, like,
utopia.
You walked up while I was interviewing.
I do support I support equal rights, like in democracy in places like all over the world, including Palestine. Like,
How do you feel about communism?
love it. I'm a communist myself. I'm a communist myself.
Beginning of this rally, we were
co-opting this rally to like
to take a picture.
further your like
With your
anti-Chinese
hand on
like
your right
interests.
eye.
Donald Trump don't trust China. China is asshole.
Further your like
With your
anti-Chinese
hand on
like
your right
interests.
eye.
Donald Trump don't trust China. China is asshole.
Further your like
With your
anti-Chinese
hand on
like
your right
interests.
eye.
China is asshole.
With your
Anti-Chinese.
hand.
It's asshole.
Hong Kongers are freedom-loving people, and Donald Trump, yeah, he's all about freedom. He's all about individual liberty and all about free speech and all that stuff.
Do you reckon the Hong Kongers are behind him?
Yes, Hong Kongers will love every Western country in the world, man. Britain, here in Australia, yeah, we all love freedom.
Do you reckon they like socialism?
Nah.
Can you just like leave?
Is it?
I just like
You're the one that came up to me.
just go.
I still don't understand why the socialists, the Victorian socialists are here. Which part of this, which part of the Hong Kong community supports Victorian socialism? Socialism, who? No Hong Kongers support socialism. They support democracy, freedom, not socialism, not communism.
I would hope so.
We are a tiny news team here at TR.News, and we don't have big funding. We do not have the funding of communist China. We have nothing. We have you guys. That's it. So please go to TR.News/support to help us out. Love ya. You guys from the BBC? Yeah? Are you a reporter?
I'm a producer.
You're a producer. Can I ask why today they reported that there was 400 people here?
Where did you see that?
Online. So how many people are you going to report that were here?
I'm going to check.
How many people are you going to report are here?
Well, how many do you think are here?
A couple thousand, at least?
I thought about 1,500.
Okay. So you're going to report that?
Hundreds.
Here's the people.
All right. Do you understand why the community doesn't trust you guys? Were there hundreds of people there today?
Yes, exactly. There were hundreds of people there. Many hundreds of people. There were hundreds of people there.
At what point do you say thousands?
When there's
They're
multiple
fighting
thousands.
for.
Okay. In the BBC, every time I see that, it does say far right. It doesn't. Are you denying that you guys report him as far right?
We haven't today, have we?
Okay.
You just looked yourself.
Okay, great. Mazel tov. You didn't report him as far right today. Do you deny that you call him far right?
I've never personally called him far right.
The BBC.
I've never personally called him far right.
So do you condemn those who publish articles?
I'm not going to condemn anyone for you. I'm telling
Not for
you.
me.
You're asking me the question.
I'm asking
telling
you to
you.
tell
I have
real
never
news.
personally called Tommy Robinson
think he's
far
far
right.
right?
I've been following Tommy Robinson for a long time. I was at his court case in Luton when he was convicted for football disorder offences. Okay, so I've been around a long time looking at him. Okay? And all we've done today is report it factually and accurately.
Hundreds of people, yeah. Is he far right? The BBC continuously calls him far right.
It's not for me
which
to
is
judge.
synonymous. No,
It's not for me to judge
well,
what his politics
it's
are.
offensive because it is synonymous with white supremacists and neo-Nazi. Do you think Tommy Robinson is a white supremacist or neo-Nazi? Do you? The BBC.
My views on Tommy Robinson aren't important.
The BBC then.
You look at what we've reported. You look at what we've reported.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
You guys security.
I don't know exactly
What?
what's really going on.
What's that? Report fake news. All right, so today I just did go up to the BBC to challenge them on their continual reporting of Tommy Robinson as a far-right figure. Now, we know the real far-right hate Tommy. They hate anybody that talks as Tommy does, anyone that stands for what is right. But painting someone like that as far-right is synonymous with neo-Nazis and white supremacy. It is a way to smear them so that they believe the public won't follow them. It doesn't.
Now that is totally true. We always label when they don't believe and they don't have an argument that now all of a sudden it's racism, it's white supremacy, it's the Illuminati, it's some kind of far-fetched, way out there dream. And the problem with this is that it really cuts down the option to have communication. Nothing can be started. There can be no conversation started. And the reason for that is just nobody wants to open the door. They just want to be cowards. But these people are protesting and want all these special privileges, but they don't have a solution. We're gonna look more into this. Let's continue more into this.
Doesn't work. And it's time that organisations like the BBC are held to account or lose their public funding. Does everyone agree with that?
Yes!
I was on my way here with the cameraman, and we decided to, cut a shortcut through the long way through the Antifa group. Do you know what the first thing they called me? All right, let's take a vote. Do you reckon it was racist or Nazi first?
Nazi, so go away. Nazi, so go away. Nazi, so go away.
I'm a Nazi. Did you just call me a Nazi? How do you feel about the rape allegations of Hope Not Hate? Are you associated to them?
I need to move on.
Do you agree that the BBC is fake news or not?
Fake news is an absolute cheap label that has been manufactured to try and catch people's
yes or no
mindscapes, and it is absolutely now it's irrelevant, mate.
Yes
it's
or
irrelevant.
No?
There is no such thing
as what?
You are fake news. You are fake news.
Let's oppose him everywhere he goes.
Do you have a problem with what the BBC have done?
Are you sure that some of the Antifa aren't undercover government operatives trying to provoke violence?
We know you're friends with Tommy Robinson. We've seen you on the internet.
I like Tommy.
Yeah.
I'm not going to deny that, but I got to
get footage of people who are against him and to try and cut it to make people look stupid.
No, I don't have to cut it to make him look stupid.
Doesn't have to cut it. Yeah.
If it becomes a flashpoint, we leave.
Okay.
Like for now, I just want to talk to people. I want to get people's perspectives.
The media are not interested in producing rational debate. The media only wants to get ratings, and hate and fear brings the ratings and sells newspapers and gets likes and views.
I know, a bit like hate against Tommy Robinson.
Well,
he's a fascist, and you like him. Is that what you just said?
Again, you said he's a fascist.
You said you liked him.
I said I like him. I didn't say he's a fascist.
So you like a fascist?
John Sweeney calls him a woofter. Imagine Tommy did that. Imagine the outrage if Tommy had done that. This same group.
Keep calling him Tommy. What's his real name?
Stephen Laxey. There we go. All right. Is that better? Does that make you feel better? We'll call him Stephen. Will that make you engage in the conversation?
No. I'm definitely anti-racist.
I'm anti-racist too. We can agree on that one.
That's cool.
What does fascism mean?
Well, it's kind of like inflicting, trying to rid a country of a population, maybe of religion or colour or anything like that.
Is that what fascism means?
Well, it's part of what fascism means.
What does fascism mean? You use it a lot. No, you're using it a lot.
You tell us.
Yeah.
You tell us.
Well,
you don't know what fascism means, do you?
Of course I do, yeah.
What does it mean?
Tommy Robinson doesn't like...
What does fascism mean?
You don't like Muslim people.
What does fascism mean?
See, you don't like Muslim people. I mean, that was the response.
Call me a fascist or Tommy a fascist, yet she cannot give you the definition of fascism.
You judge people by their race, their religion, their culture.
No, I don't. By their values. What are we doing here today?
What's that? All right. What are you telling me? Don't talk to him. Yeah. Why? Far right. Far right. Oh my! Don't speak to him.
I'm just asking questions. Would you like to talk to me?
Yeah, I'll talk to you.
Why are the black people not there? I think it's because they're scared to go there.
What if I put to you that they're scared of this group? How you doing, brother? You good?
Yes, thank you.
What are we here for?
Well, I'm not here for
Oh, you're not here for anything? Right, no.
Don't speak to him, guys. He's not like, don't speak to him.
I'm curious about what his arguments are. Yeah, he doesn't know himself because it's so narrow. He won't budge. You can't let him speak. He's not. I don't know. He's a journalist. He works beside Robinson. I don't care what he is. His argument is about this wide. He won't broaden the argument to listen to anyone's comment.
Are you defending the actions of John Sweeney?
Straight away.
BBC does great journalism regardless of what you say. BBC tries to be impartial.
Can I ask you a quick question? So you're obviously advocating that we have more refugees. Do you feel the same about the white South African refugees? Should we be inviting them here as well?
No. Why aren't you hanging out with
Nazi made over there?
Okay, so
must use preferred pronouns.
Here's where everything makes sense, because this is insanity. It really is. Let's listen to Ben Shapiro and see what he has to say.
As we are now being told, teaching kids that they must use preferred pronouns, or that men can become women, women can become men, sex doesn't exist, as a recent op-ed in the New York Times said. That's asinine, anti-scientific, and counterproductive.
So my main disagreement with you is on the subject of transgenderism. And what I've seen in the past is that you said one of your principal objections to the transgender movement is that you think accepting them into society won't necessarily help solve their problems. Is that like a fair characterization of what you say?
No, I mean, I think that I don't think it's fair in the sense that I think everybody should be treated with a certain level of dignity. But what I have said is that I don't think that the high transgender suicide rate is attributable to societal intolerance.
Okay, so I sort of disagree with, or I don't think the empirical evidence necessarily says that. I've seen studies from UCLA that have drawn different conclusions, but I realize if we disagree on the empirical evidence, not much can be resolved here tonight. So assuming that it would help to accept them more into society, would you change your position on transgenderism?
So the position on transgenderism I want to clarify so that I can tell you what I would change and what I wouldn't change. So what I would not change is the idea that you cannot force people to call you what you want to be called. That is anathema to a free society. I will also not change the idea that we should not indoctrinate children in blatant biological falsehoods like there's no such thing as male and female. I think it's very important that kids know there is such a thing as male and female, that these are real categories, and that a man cannot become a woman and a woman cannot become a man. I think that confusing children about this stuff carries its own inherent dangers. Kids are easily confused and easily screwed up. So I think that would not change. I've also said in conversations with people like Blair White, who's a transgender woman, meaning a man who believes he's a woman, I've said to Blair, like, if we were at restaurants or something and we were out to dinner together, I wouldn't go out of my way to call Blair White a he. I mean, presumably we'd be speaking in second person with one another. But at the same time, like, for the same reason that, you know, there are people in my life who do lots of things that I disagree with, and I don't feel it necessary to launch a conflict on the basis of that every time we meet. But that's a different thing than what the transgender rights movement is saying. What they are saying is that society should cram down on people perceptions about biology that are false, that we should treat it as bigotry if you use the actual biological pronouns for people. This is a form of bigotry and hate, which is nonsense. It's just something you don't like. There are lots of things I don't like. Doesn't mean it's a form of bigotry and hate. And that's where I stand on this. So again, I think that we should try to treat people with as much civility as possible. And in my position as a public figure, you know, I am very often speaking on the general kind of issue. I'm not speaking on one-to-one, you know, out to lunch or something. That's a little bit of a different thing. You know, when my child is 4.5 years old, right? She comes to me and she will say, Dad, I drew a picture. Do you think that it's good? And the answer is yes. I mean, I love my daughter. Sure, the picture is great. Now, is that, if I'm an art critic, is that going to change my definition of good or art? No. I mean, if I were the art critic at the New York Times and I were reviewing my daughter's picture, I'd say this is garbage. It's not good at all, right? I mean, my public position is that I am the art critic at the New York Times discussing issues of public importance and public policy. I don't think that it is the responsibility of other people to protect your fragile mindset. With that said, if people wish to do so out of a certain level of sympathy, I certainly don't think there's anything wrong with that. I mean, if you want to, in interpersonal connections, do that. But I think that teaching kids, as we are now being told, teaching kids that they must use preferred pronouns, or that men can become women, women can become men, sex doesn't exist, as a recent op-ed in the New York Times said, that's asinine, anti-scientific, and counterproductive.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so when you listen to that, here's the problem. I saw a graph that showed how many men or women are becoming homosexual. From 1970, it was like 4%, and then into the 90s, it was like 15%, and they're pushing 30% to 45% of homosexual. And I don't have a problem with that. The problem is that I'm worried about continuing the race of the human race. I look at China, and China had in the 80s, what they would do is they had one child rule. Now, in their culture, if you have a business and they have a capitalist, communist structured government, so that means that you were always an appendage of that government. So the problem kind of lies in I lost my train of thought now. That's horrible. I don't want to do that. It's an appendage of this, but when we're looking at this woke, it doesn't make sense, because I'm not going to have a child being confused. And in China, with the one-child rule, now they have 1 million males at age 30 with one female opportunity that's inside there. Not only that, but now they have a river that is going to the south, which they use for watering in order to get food. So they're starting to have starvation. And they have the elderly, which they have to take care of. And they don't have enough bodies. They're looking at about a 10-year survival on their civilization, which means if you were going to do something, I said this 2 years ago, is that you're going to go after Taiwan. Now, in order to go after Taiwan, you're going to have some kind of a distraction against the Western, well, us. And Russia going after Ukraine because of NATO, which we did kind of poke the bear. We did put an ICBM launcher about 400 miles away from St. Petersburg. You know, if he came and put it in Canada and put 400 miles away from New York City, an ICBM nuclear warhead, we would have a problem with that too. So what are we creating here? And on top of that, we have to start looking at this woke community. Is they want to change our language. I'm not going to have a law that tells me what I can call somebody. If I feel comfortable calling somebody that, then I will. But other than that, I'm not going to go out of my way to say this they, it, MX, all sorts of crazy stuff. All sorts of crazy stuff. So, but we're gonna get back into woke, but we're gonna be jumping into some other things that that are important. Okay? So, what I want to do is go into...
Yeah, it's good.
I stayed home, smoked a little weed.
Okay, so this is really important. Now, this is because of the defense. And this is all going to come together, all right? But I want you to listen to what Joe Rogan says.
Yeah, it's good.
I stayed home, smoked a little weed, and I started reading up on TikTok.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. I'm going to read you this, because this is so crazy.
Is it good or bad?
Bad.
So what are you saying? It's a bad place to be?
Listen to this. This is from TikTok's privacy policy.
All right.
It said, we collect certain information about the device you use to access the platform, such as your IP address, user region, this is really crazy. User agent, mobile carrier, time zone settings, identifiers for advertising purpose, model of your device, the device system, network type, device IDs, your screen resolution and operating system, app and file names and types. So all your apps and all your file names, all the things you have filed away on your phone, they have access to that. File names and types. Keystroke patterns or rhythms. So they're monitoring your keystrokes, which means they know every fucking thing you type. Wow. Battery state, audio settings, and connected audio devices where you log in from multiple devices. We will be...
Okay, so let me explain this a little bit so people can understand really what this means. When you sign this agreement, what it's doing is it opens up and it knows that you have Windows 11. It gives a remote access, and it allows them to view all files. Now, here's where the big security risk comes. Because China, as I was speaking to, is a capitalist, communist country, now you're an appendage of the government. And right now, we are looking at World War III. Cyber attack is going to be a very big, well, it's going to be bad. It's going to be infrastructure first, but here's the really bad part. Now, with this terms of agreement that you're signing, what it allows us to do is if you're on your computer, and let's say you go to your bank account, you type in your password. It takes a screenshot of everything you're doing. Not only that, if you have audio, it can listen. If you have a webcam, it can watch. Okay? So now it has your bank information. It can get into your account. It can transfer it out. So here comes, that's the worst. So they could take all the money. That seems like, I don't know, something they would do in cyber attack. But here's the biggie. So someone works for electric companies. Someone works for government, especially government. So they have a daughter or a son, and they're on TikTok. Well, they're on the Wi-Fi at home. Now, anything attached to that Wi-Fi, it can access keystroke, so any passwords. So if he works for the government and he is at home and he's doing work and he types in password, they now have the logon to the main server. And those hackers are good. They can start shutting things down. We need to get rid of TikTok. It has to go because it is connected to Wi-Fi everywhere. It can close down pipelines. It can close down electrical lines, the dams. We lose electricity. That means we lose food. Basically, they would bring us to our knees. And if they could take Taiwan, they also control 95% of the microprocessors, which is something we need. We need these desperately in order to build our military defense systems. So we're stuck in a bind. And now China is, they were sending parts, which probably meant that they were sending weapons. Because Russia really doesn't have bulletproof vests. They have plastic in there and all sorts of things that make it look like it. They're poorly trained. They're using weapons from 1919 sometimes. When people get killed, they just have to run up and grab the neck weapon because they don't have enough weapons. So it really showed the weakness of Russia. But now China has joined, and they're sending weapons now. Now we are sending weapons to Ukraine. So what this really is a Cold War. We, as over the last 20 years, have really done a military coup to take over Ukraine, and we made it pro-Western. Now, people wanted to not get away from, well, Soviet Union, but now Russia. They wanted to be out. So the NATO, though, is trying to push all the way to that line. And that's what they're scared of. And China's fighting against that. So, but if China takes Taiwan, we are building right now our own microprocessing systems, I think in Arizona, but it's going to take 10 years. So we need to start severely preparing, because World War III, I think in the history books, is going to show that it started when Ukraine went after Kiev, or I believe, Ukraine in general. But let's go ahead and let's listen to let's listen to the terms of agreement. So, but just keep this stuff in mind. And it also takes all your pictures. It can take anything that it wants, and blackmail. So if they want to blackmail you as individual hackers, they will blackmail you. Okay, so let's continue and let's take a listen, Joe here.
Be able to use your profile information to identify your activity across devices. We may also associate you with information collected from devices other than those you use to log into the platform, meaning they can use other computers that you're not even using to log into TikTok. They can suck the data off that. That's what you're agreeing to when you download and start using TikTok. That's wild.
It's insane. My question would be, do you think they did that? They created TikTok just on purpose to have all that?
100%. Wow. I think they saw that people are addicted to social media, and they came up with the most addictive version of social media, which is TikTok. It's the most addictive by far. It's the best for sucking people in. My kids are fucking hook, line, and sinkered on that shit. And I know a lot of other people are hook, line, and sinkered to grown people.
It's good.
It's good. And it starts playing things immediately. The moment you turn it on, it's like playing you a new thing, playing you a new thing. You're like, ah! And you just sucked into it. And all the while, it's monitoring your keystrokes, your audio settings. But by audio settings, that means it has access to your microphone. That means it's listening to you right.
Just tell me how it ends,
now.
man.
It ends with China having all of your data. And if they develop...
Okay, now, and I also want you to keep in mind that information is the commodity that is the most valuable. It's the most valuable. It's you can steal personal identities. You can transport people illegally into other countries. Right now, the border's out of control. We have people, terrorist groups, members coming through, cartel members. There was a teenager that got caught with 5.5 pounds of fentanyl in Florida. Cartels killings have now happened in every state. The entire country has been taken over. So we have to watch this. Now China is also supplying secretly the fentanyl to the Sinaloa cartel. And the Sinaloa cartel, when they make these pills are like 40% fentanyl, which kill anybody. So they're not selling a drug to get high. What they're selling a drug to is to poison and kill as many gringos possible. Now, that is actually a term I have heard from different documentaries. So, go ahead and hit the chat and view and give me your opinion. But let's go ahead and let's listen to the rest of this.
If they get all the data, then what?
Back on that chat and write in some concerns, write in some questions. Let's talk about this. Let's open up the forum. That's what this is. This is for that. And I'm trying to hit some followers. Hit some followers. Hit that like button. Spread it out. We need to get this conversation started. I mean, but with just a moderate conversation, not so just poke the bear. I mean, with ridiculous, just ridiculous stuff. To what I'm hearing from these people. So, hit that subscribe, hit that follow, hit that bell, thumbs up. And we're going to take a break now. We're going to come back and we're going to go and review some more videos. And we're going to start looking deeper into what is really happening right now. 2023 is being crazy. Okay? Some natural disasters, some other things. Let's get into it. Okay, we are back. Thank you for being patient. Seems like my mic's a little bit on the gain side. I want it to sound as natural as possible. You know what? Can you guys give me a second? And I want to play with this, little this. Maybe it sounds a little better. Just like this. You know what? And I think it does. Maybe let's do the gain a little bit more. And you know what? Here we are. Okay. That's the limiter. Got it. Anyway, let's continue with Jordan Peterson. The attack on Jordan Peterson because he doesn't want legislation to tell him what he can say and what he can't say, which I think is absurd for them to want to do that. I would spit in their face. I would just a big old. Yeah, let's continue.
One simple question. I thought we were statistically irrelevant.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, I don't exist.
If a trans person asked you, would you please refer to me by they and them pronouns, would you refer to them by those pronouns?
Might depend on how they ask.
So no.
Why do you have the authority to determine whether or not...
Refer to me.
Why do I have the authority to determine what I say? What kind of question is that?
Why do you have the authority? Let me finish. Why do you have the authority to determine whether or not an individual is...
Why do they have the authority to tell him what to say?
What?
It would depend on what I
What
thought of your
hoops
motivation.
do you want us to jump through?
Those are my pronouns. Those are my
There's no
pronouns.
motivation. No, I know. No one ever has any motivation.
We're
Those are
trying to
my pronouns.
survive.
Politics are a product of our lives and us trying to live in this world. We're not trying to live in this world as a product of our
want me to
politics.
send you
I was apolitical before I came out as trans. I got into politics because I needed to survive, to advocate against people like you, no offense. I have one
Oh,
question.
come on.
Okay, so they them pronouns are written into the Oxford English Dictionary, the Merriam-Webster Dictionary. It's actually the word of the year this year, and it does have historical continuity all the way back to Shakespeare. It is objectively an English word, singular they pronouns, grammatically correct. Do you think that you can choose to not respect something that is in the English language as a professor, as an academic, that you are going to Absolutely, I am choosing you're ignoring rules of the English language to go out of your way to disrespect students? That's your opinion, and I'm not going
It
out
is
of
my
way to
opinion.
disrespect students.
We're saying it's disrespectful
Anyway,
to us.
you don't get to decide what's disrespectful to us.
I mean, that was just absurd. Was it not? I can't believe that just happened. I mean, this poor guy, highly educated, renowned scientist, with full understanding of human nature and the requirement that we need to hold a structure together and stop changing stupid, trivial things. We have much bigger problems. And this is only creating more separation. Basically, how it's turning out is we have created silos of Republicans and Democrats. These silos are stacked up. There is no communication. The floor is not open to have rational conversation. This is a big problem. Without this, we start looking at civil war. And we saw this with Antifa. People were being arrested with rifles and knives and were planning attacks. Were infiltrated by the FBI. And also some independent journalists. So this is something very serious in society that we need to really pay attention to. Okay, so we're gonna look at some other thing. Okay, I want to hear Ben Shapiro's on this. All right. This is going to be important too, because Ben Shapiro has a little bit different, more conservative. Oh, what happened there? Okay. Let's try that again. There we go.
I think that teaching kids, as we are now being told, teaching kids that they must use preferred pronouns, or that men can become women, women can become men, sex doesn't exist, as a recent op-ed in the New York Times said, that's asinine, anti-scientific, and counterproductive.
That's dangerous, is what it is. You're causing
So my main
dysphoria.
is on the subject of transgenderism. And what I've seen in the past is that you said one of your principal objections to the transgender movement is that you think accepting them into society won't necessarily help solve their problems. Is that like a fair characterization of what you say?
No, I mean, I think that I don't think it's fair in the sense that I think everybody should be treated with a certain level of dignity. But what I have said is that I don't think that the high transgender suicide rate is attributable to societal intolerance.
Okay, so I sort of disagree with, or I don't think the empirical evidence necessarily says that. I've seen studies from UCLA that have drawn different conclusions, but I realize if we disagree on the empirical evidence, not much can be resolved here tonight. So assuming that it would help to accept them more into society, would you change your position on transgenderism?
So the position on transgenderism I want to clarify so that I can tell you what I would change and what I wouldn't change. So what I would not change is the idea that you cannot force people to call you what you want to be called. That is anathema to a free society. I will also not change the idea that we should not indoctrinate children in blatant biological falsehoods, like there's no such thing as male and female.
No, that's exactly correct. That is exactly
that a man cannot become a woman
correct.
and a woman cannot become a man. I think that confusing children about this stuff carries its own inherent dangers. Kids are easily confused and easily screwed up. So I think that would not change. I've also said
Create mental disorders.
A transgender woman, meaning a man who believes he's a woman. I've said to Blair, like, if we were at restaurants or something and we were out to dinner together, I wouldn't go out of my way to call Blair White a he. I mean, presumably we'd be speaking in second person with one another. But at the same time, like, for the same reason that, you know, there are people in my life who do lots of things that I disagree with, and I don't feel it necessary to launch a conflict on the basis of that every time we meet. But that's a different thing than what the transgender rights movement is saying. What they are saying is that society should cram down on people perceptions about biology that are false, that we should treat it as bigotry if you use the actual biological pronouns for people. This is a form of bigotry and hate, which is nonsense. It's just something you don't like. There are lots of things I don't like. It doesn't mean it's a form of bigotry and hate. And that's where I stand on this. So again, I think that we should try to treat people with as much civility as possible. And in my position as a public figure, you know, I am very often speaking on the general kind of issue. I'm not speaking on one-to-one, you know, out to lunch or something. That's a little bit of a different thing. You know, when my child is 4.5 years old, right? She comes to me and she will say, "Dad, I drew a picture. Do you think that it's good?" And the answer is yes. I mean, I love my daughter. Sure, the picture's great. Now, is that, if I'm an art critic, is that going to change my definition of good or art? No. I mean, if I were the art critic at the New York Times and I were reviewing my daughter's picture, I'd say this is garbage. It's not good at all, right? I mean, but,
right.
My public position is that I am a critic at the New York Times discussing issues of public importance and public policy. I don't think that it is the responsibility of other people to protect your fragile mindset. With that said, if people wish to do so out of a certain level of sympathy, I certainly don't think there's anything wrong with that. I mean, if you want to, in interpersonal connections, do that. But I think that teaching kids, as we are now being told, teaching kids that they must use preferred pronouns, or that men can become women, women can become men, sex doesn't exist, as a recent op-ed in the New York Times said, that's asinine, anti-scientific, and counterproductive.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, guys, just give me a second. I'm just doing a quick delay check. Okay. Let's go ahead. And I want to move to something else. Now, this is something to me is pretty important. Let me make sure I got everything that I need here. I like a little music. What's going on with my music, huh? It just kind of disappeared. Interesting. That's all right. We might not need music. Okay, let's go to the next thing. Let's see what else we got here. Okay, we went over return cervix on TikTok. Okay, if you didn't see it, very important. Get rid of it. If you are associated with anybody in government, with power plants, nuclear power plants, oil, infrastructure of any sort, accounting, Pentagon, obviously, anything like that. So if you're a child, do not have TikTok on the Wi-Fi network. It will record and it can go through and hack everything. So if China were to attack, one of their first attacks would be to go after your bank accounts, steal all your money, get into all government, shut down water, and you would basically be stuck. You had no plumbing, no water, no electricity because they would shut down the electrical grid. They could overheat the nuclear power plants, cause Chernobyl, basically, which we have quite a few. So it's very important. TikTok needs to go. We need to put it through government. Needs to get out of here. That's it. So that's just another thing that needs to go. So, but looking at other things. I think this is pretty important.
Well, but while Biden's visit to the border is new, the problems at the border.
Okay. So let's take a look at this.
Well, but while Biden's visit to the border is new, the problems at the border have been going on for years. And of course, News Nation has been there to bear witness to much of it. Allie Bradley is in Yuma, Arizona for us. Allie, is Biden's visit too little too late for some of these border communities?
Yeah, so Nicole, out here in Yuma, a couple of small groups here, migrants from the Dominican just spoke with me that they're heading to Boston here. And this is, we're seeing a record number of migrants, men, women, and children already have crossed the U.S. southern border with Mexico since President Biden took office. So when he makes this trip to El Paso over the weekend, whether that visit will have an impact on future crossings remains to be seen.
Border Patrol agents chasing down migrants as tens of thousands make the trek from Mexico, Venezuela, Cuba, Nicaragua, and as far away as Russia, flooding the U.S.-Mexico border in a desperate attempt to enter the U.S.
Hello, America.
And the numbers are staggering since President.
Now, I want you guys to keep in mind that we're also finding terrorists coming in. We're finding Chinese nationalists, which could very well be spies. We don't know. We have teenagers that are coming over with cartels. We have assassins that are killing people. We have in California no fly zones. in the desert, okay, and it takes an hour and a half for the police to get there. So we have cartels now running areas of California, where there are no fly zones. So he has allowed the border to now allow the Sinaloa and the other four cartels to battle. Which, by the way, the weapons that they got were actually confiscated and sold from the United States government to the cartel. That's why they have 50 caliber sniper rifles. They have drones with bombs. This is a terrorist group. And for the White House to take months to really say this is a terrorist joke, it to me is a joke. It really should have been the American and Mexican military and special forces should have gone in and started burning everything and confiscating all the money and taking out the cartel and taking out not the head. But we're talking about taking about half. Okay, and then allowing the military, such as a national guard of the government, to start at the northern border and start fishing down south. And pushing out cartel members to take out the rest of them. To not make them a terrorist group when they're killing the highest death rate of 18 to 45 is from overdose of fentanyl. And some of these are just taking pills. They just thought was a Xanax. It's really terrifying. And we need to stop it. We need to stop it now. Anyway, let's continue this.
President Biden took office. Nearly 5 million illegal immigrants have crossed the U.S. border. According to U.S. Customs and Border Protection data, more than 2 million undocumented immigrants crossed into the U.S. last year. In November alone, a record 233,000 migrants were apprehended. That's an average of 6,500 border encounters per day. And in many cases, it's smugglers leading the way. Thousands of migrants paying big money to be led into the U.S., using holes, tunnels, and insufficient fencing to enter the country. Many hopping the fence to get to the U.S. on the other side. Arizona's governor resorting to using shipping containers to try to stem the flood of migrants into his state, entering through big gaps in the border wall. Some of those breaks in the fencing used to transport illegal drugs into the U.S. Border Patrol agents report a recent bust of more than 200 pounds of fentanyl. In pill form, that breaks down to more than 943,000 pills. At the same port of entry in Nogales, more than 15.75 million fentanyl pills have been seized this fiscal year, which just began October 1st.
And imagine,
Arizona officials saying at least half of the drugs making it into the country are flowing through Arizona's border at the hands of the cartels. And the crime doesn't stop there. Most of the migrants are processed with Border Patrol, who run biometrics, which includes fingerprinting and records checks. When it comes to certain criminal history, those checks are useless, and fugitives could be among those entering the U.S. And the crisis at the border made worse by a shortage of Border Patrol agents who are overwhelmingly outnumbered. Agents forced to focus more on processing and transporting migrants rather than patrolling the border. In an effort to beef up security, Border Patrol doubling the hiring incentive from 10,000 to 20,000 for new recruits, trying to get one step ahead of the influx of migrants who have been spread out across the U.S., sent by planes and buses to Chicago, New York, Denver, and D.C.
Now, Nicole, thousands of migrants are still actively being released into the United States, many of them with notices to appear or court hearings that might be backlogged out 2 to 5 years. And in part, the reason is because the immigration courts are experiencing such a massive backlog right now. We're looking at a whopping 2 million cases that are still sitting there. So that is part of those reasons why we are seeing these court dates so far out.
Well, and Ali, you cover the border. You have a chance to speak face to face with these Border Patrol agents. What are they saying ahead of the president's visit?
Yeah, a lot of them are saying, kind of how we started this, saying, is it too little, too late? They're kind of saying finally, but at the same time, they're saying they don't have really high hopes for the president's visit. One telling me, quote, I don't think he's going to see how bad it really is, and it'll still be status quo for him. So there's that one quote from a Border Patrol agent. The second agent I talked to said, quote, I am doubtful that the president, who has waited 2 full years since taking office to visit the border and whose policies switched the numbers from lowest illegal crossings ever to the highest ever in less than 12 months, could possibly have anything good to say. Now, all of these agents, I've talked to several today, they say they're pretty frustrated that it took him this long. And honestly, Nicole, they don't think a lot is going to come from it. And they're looking at these policies, and a lot of them look very similar to things that they've already been told that they're supposed to be doing.
And today's border report, yeah, we'll see what happens next week. All right, Ali, thank you.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased
All right, guys. So, you know, we're watching another part now. So we have all these immigrants coming across. Now there's another part of this. The cartel is actually coyote in these guys. You know, some of them are paying $36,000 to get over here and
all right, no end in sight to the crisis of the southern border. Check out these live pictures. These are drones coming in from Eagle Pass, Texas. Seeing huge groups of migrants there crossing into Texas as we speak. Some 13,000 migrants in the past week alone. Bill Malugin is reporting live there in Eagle Pass. But they're being forced by guns.
And the reason why they do this is because they overwhelm the resources.
Good morning to you. Just moments ago, we witnessed.
And when they overrun the resources, there's not enough people to obviously get all the people. So when that happens, at a different part, they transfer over. That's when they're transferring all the drugs, all the cartel members, and all the assassins, and all the weapons, and then they transfer back. Generally in vehicles hidden in very smart spots. I saw one in a transmission casing once. And they dropped it back, and that's to drive the cash, and they do it at the same time. They're forcing these people across, and they're often making them drugs, and they drop them off at stash houses on the opposite side. So opening that border is just a horrible idea. Trump was right. I don't agree with all of his things. I don't agree with either of the politicians and all of their thoughts. But building a wall was the correct. That's the correct thing to do. And we kind of just lost on that. So that part kind of sucked. It kind of sucked. Yeah, I didn't really care for that too much. So, but anyway, let's go ahead and watch the rest of this.
This absolutely enormous single group of migrants crossing illegally here into Eagle Pass, Texas. You can see the size of that group from our multiple live cameras just down the road from us. Hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of people. And as you mentioned, the Del Rio sector where we are has been getting absolutely hammered, averaging almost 2,000 illegal crossings every single day. As of Monday, their Border Patrol holding capacity here was 200% over what their normal capacity should should be. But let's show you as this group was actually crossing. Take a look at this video as they got into the water. We first saw this group moving through the trees on the Mexican side of the river, and we knew a huge group was coming based off the amount of people we could see. Eventually, they got into the water, led by multiple suspected cartel guides or scouts leading them across. This crossing went on for about 10 minutes. They were in the water, an absolutely enormous group crossing over in broad daylight. There were no border patrol here when they first crossed over. You can take a look at this video we shot with our drone once they started getting over to the U.S. side. At first, there was only one single Texas National Guard Humvee parked there before a border patrol van started arriving. But this was about as blatant of a cartel smuggling operation as you are going to see. This was a massive group of several hundred that was moved across the border in broad daylight. They continue to pick and choose different spots along the border to do this, but you can see just how massive that group was as it came across. And back out here live, it is a huge drain on Border Patrol resources when a group like that comes across. They have to pull agents off the front lines to do paperwork, processing. Remember, the temperatures out here are supposed to hit about 108 degrees today. It just goes to show you this border crisis is not seasonal. It does not slow down in the heat. The migrants are not listening to Kamala Harris when she says do not come. And most of all, when the administration says the border is closed, you take a look at the video and judge for yourself. We'll send it back to you.
Okay. Bill Melugin reporting down there on the border for us. Bill, thank you.
Okay, I want to see about taking the seer. I'm curious about pulling statistics. About the crime rate. Oops, that's not what I wanted. About the crime rate that has risen in the southeast. I won't do this right. Give me a second. Give me a second. There it goes.
Heard about that right now. Border agents say they stopped a member of the deadly MS-13 gang from sneaking into the U.S. But what about the criminal?
If you're not familiar with the MS-13, they're the most violent gang. When El Chapo was taken out in Sinaloa, he believed to never shoot up towns. Don't steal the person, the old lady. Run parties, have parties for the town, and be more as their religious leader was, which was more like a Robin Hood, which is more likely not a true person. I can't remember his name right now. But that's who they worship. Now, when they took them out, these new cartels, they run like military. So they scare the people. It's all shoot up the buildings. It's steal the person. It's kill the people. And now MS-13 is the most dangerous gang in America. And now we have just allowed them across the border. It's been free enterprise. So let's go ahead and let's watch this.
Criminals who are able to get through, the ones that are good at being deceitful. Our next guest knows all about it. His older brother Rocky was shot and killed by a criminal, an illegal alien at the time. That was back in December of 2018 after being arrested and released under California's sanctuary policy. Jody joined us right now. Jody, we're seeing these numbers, the staggering numbers of people coming through the border that we catch. What about the ones we don't? Before we get that story and your perception, tell us what happened to your brother.
Good morning. Thank you for having me, first of all. He was murdered in 2018 by an illegal criminal alien that was arrested 2 days prior. And because of the sanctuary city laws, he was released and shot and murdered by this criminal.
So he was, this guy's name is Gustavo Garcia. He was arrested on a drug charge, held in jail for about 10 hours. Then he was responsible for several shootings, 2 other murders, carjackings, multiple high-speed chases. So this guy's a true menace. He's hell on earth, and he's still here, and your brother isn't. When you hear about an arrest of two Yemeni terrorists, and then you hear about an MS-13 arrest, what are you thinking, along with the 19,000 unaccompanied minors who are just streaming into our country?
We absolutely have a crisis. All you hear is law enforcement agencies screaming for help, and there's nothing being done. We have a saying in law enforcement: if it walks like a duck, talks like a duck, it's not a cow, it's a duck. So don't sit there and tell me that there's not a crisis down at the border, because there is. All you have to do is listen and see to know that's a crisis. We had more illegal immigrants cross our southern border last month than ever before in history. Think about that. In history.
Right, and they blame
it's truly amazing what's going on down there.
And of course, the way it goes, and you would know this better than I, is that you send the families who are no threat, you send the kids who are no threat, the border agents go there, and then in comes MS-13 or the drug traffickers with the fentanyl that are poisoning the country. They think, well, I'm not in a border city, it doesn't involve me, but that's just not the case.
You're right, it isn't the case. Just think of.
Now, I want you guys to all keep in mind that this is an active war from China. China is sneaking in fentanyl. To my understanding, they're sneaking it in through submarines, and they're bringing them to the Sinaloa cartel. And they want to kill as many, as they say, gringos as possible. So this is another type of war. So they're doing this on purpose. That's not the only thing they're doing. The spy balloons. They're doing a lot of things. They did a cyber attack. They're preparing. And we need to start preparing. Something's gonna happen. I don't know what's going on. This border being open, we're letting open the possibility being very vulnerable to the possibility of spies infiltrating our country or terrorists. There could be terrorists from Mexico that are native Mexican. So you know. This is troubling. This is troubling to me. Plus, we're also spending money giving welfare to them, and food stamps and all these things. We need to fix our infrastructure. We need to take care of the mental ill here. Take care of the soldiers with mental illness. There's so much here. There's so much education, new books, and all sorts of stuff. Protection systems from EMPs over our electrical system, from a CME that comes from the sun, frontal mass ejection. We have all these things that we have to worry about, and yet we're just pitying over woke and the border. The border wall. It should have never been open. It should be do the paperwork. Let us vet you. And then you come over. And in my opinion, some people from other countries shouldn't be allowed. It should be closed border for right now. I think World War III is already started. Right now we're at a Cold War, and we're attached to Ukraine and sending arms. And China is attending arms to Russia. And this is the Allied axis. This is China, which might be North Korea, which also might be India that joins with them. With Russia. Now we have a world war. So we have to be careful. What's going on? And this woke, these crises, all these things. We need to start paying attention to other stuff. Other medias, just other things. Let's go ahead and continue listening.
And how many that's getting across and that's coming into our communities. It's really destroying our communities. We have here in California, SB 54. It really drove a wedge between law enforcement, local law enforcement, and immigration. It just stopped them from communicating with each other. Now we have proposed bills here in California. There's an AB 937. If you strip that bill away, really what it does is it just makes it impossible, against the law actually, to deport or remove any felon, illegal immigrant that commits a felony. You just can't deport them. It's insanity what's going on here.
But the HHS secretary, who's like deputy HHS secretary, he knows how this works. He knows the need for ICE. Yet when it comes to sanctuary cities, what has ICE been told to do? Stand down or get out, right?
That's absolutely right. Their hands are tied. You could just look at the pictures of what's going down in the border. It's just like that in our communities. These felons are committing crimes. These illegal immigrants are committing crimes, felonies, getting caught with pounds of methamphetamines, weapons on them, firearms. Nothing's happening to them. I mean, they're doing literally hours in jail and getting released. You know, AB 54, the sanctuary city laws, immigration has to have a federal warrant to have these local law enforcement agencies hold them, and it's impossible to do that.
And they just don't seem to care. They don't seem to care.
That's sad. Look, I'm not a politician. I'm not a governor. I'm not a senator. I'm not a congressman. I'm a citizen. I'm an American citizen. And what's going on right now is they're protecting the criminals, illegal alien criminals. And when you start doing that, when you're protecting them, you stop protecting our community. You stop protecting our American citizens.
Jody Jones, this isn't red or blue. This is right and wrong. And what's happening now is flat out wrong. And that's what you're pointing out in memory of your brother. You're doing that. That's why you scrambled to get up this morning, Rocky, who was killed 2 years ago.
If I could say one last thing, please. I heard President Biden yesterday say that it's his job to protect American people. Well, I want to say to President Biden, please protect American people. Secure our southern borders. Do it now. Do it soon, because it's getting worse by the minute, by the hour, by the day.
Yep, and we can't even get the vice president to show up. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, guys. So this is just a little taste. My first episode here, so I'm hoping I can get some people viewed. You know, looking for some followers. Let's go for that 5. I got 3 of 5. I got 3 of 5. Let's get to 5. The tips. I put it on there. Obviously, you don't have to do it. I'm disabled, and I'm looking for a little bit extra cash just to live off of. But I want to offer you something, and a give and take. So let me work on that. But I want to end this on something fun. Okay, because this is something